This is Greg Troutwine with Maritime Reporter TV, and we're here in Oslo at the North Shipping 2025, and we're very pleased to be with Terje Kristiansen, the CEO of Shipnet, to talk about Shipnet, its trajectory, and more specifically, the role that AI will play with the company and the industry at large. So Terje, just to start, can you give a brief introduction of Shipnet to our audience?
Yeah, so Shipnet, we are one of the long-term players in the maritime software industry. We've been around since 1993, provide a full suite of solutions to it being commercial, technical, and financial management, with a presence basically globally, with 120 plus customers worldwide. So, and I personally have been part of the company since 1998. Yeah.
Can you discuss AI and how you see it impacting or even transforming Shipnet?
Yeah, it's a really, really interesting question, because if you go back just 12 months, AI was a buzzword that nobody really looked into. Of course, we had autonomous vessels, you had some things moving in that area, but just I would say over the last 6 months, there's been a quite huge sort of commercialization of it. So we have started at our end to see how we can use it, not only for internal processes, being in our customer experience teams, how we could use it in R&D, but also how we can apply it in our applications. But we also try to think of why should we do it, and it must be to the value for the customers. So how it's going to transform, I wish I knew, because if I knew, I probably would be very rich. But that it will have an impact, short and long term, yeah, for sure. Exactly how much, how quickly, I think it's going to build down to how much we trust AI.
So, that's on the Shipnet side. So when you look at the industry in general, how do you see AI reshaping the industry in general today?
Another great question, Greg, but and I think the answer is that it will impact shipping. And I think it's boiling down to the trust and what can you trust it to do. Back to autonomous ships, you see the autonomous vehicles, walking the floor here. So there are things happening, and it's happening really, really fast. So as I said, we have jumped on it. So we are exploring how we can utilize it. If you look at the shipping industry, I think there are, how can you use it? How can you apply it? How can it drive value for you as a shipping company? Can it give you a competitive advantage? Can you do safer operations? Can you support, the green movement and the environment? So I think it's down to that, and it's trust. There's statistics now that if you use a chat box, at least 60% of it is true. But is it 80%? Is it 50%? Is it 90%? And I think that's as it progresses, and it progresses really fast. That's where I think it could see the impact.
When you look at the maritime industry, can you point to specific sectors where you think it will have the most immediate impact?
I think it could help make more efficiencies quite quickly. I think it's areas that it's almost well tested. It's almost like you're using AI as a linear programming, so you can automate, drive efficiencies. So let's call it simplify operational matters. I think the next step is, and I think where companies would like to explore, as I mentioned earlier, is into safety at sea, navigation, the green emissions. How can you help getting better at that using AI and models through AI? I think that's where we're going to see it. But again, we're early on in this transformative sort of technology, and I think everybody needs to learn. But it goes so fast. We've been working with tools, and in a 2-week span, we get like 2-3 new releases of the same tool, because it just accelerates its development.
Again, when you look at the maritime industry, and I know it's a broad sector, yeah. How do you see it, I guess, changing the way they make strategic decisions?
I think because you segregate between operational decision that we spoke about. It could be, as I said, it could even be in procurement processes, like where you can do things more efficient, more costly, effective, etc. Strategic decisions, I personally think that we're a bit further away from. I've had some conversations over the last few weeks with some of our customers on this topic, actually just asking what they think. And everybody's exploring such as ChatGPT and other AI agents. It's probably being already used to some extent to search for information, so it's used as an aid to make decisions. Giving it the authority to make strategic decisions on the company's behalf, I think we are far away from still, is my personal opinion, but that it will be being used as a tool, a supportive tool to drive information, more information, maybe from different angles. I think probably closer, but I still think the decision will be made by humans for a long time.
So for someone watching that has a smaller fleet, that doesn't have a massive IT staff to dive into this, what would you suggest as the best first steps just to look into it and leverage AI in maritime?
So I think, find articles, read about it, figure out what it can do, play with it, because it's quite, I'm not the developer, but I'm playing with it just to see what can you actually do with this AI tool, whatever shape or form. But also look for partners, because the technology in itself, it's not super expensive, but maybe talk to somebody who's sort of working with this or exploring that journey, so you can actually have a partner to discuss with, rather than, as you say itself, not all companies can throw like 10 people at it and lots of cash and just see what happens. But talk to somebody, like Shipnet or others that are sort of are on that AI journey, to larger, smaller, or at least to some extent.